So today we're going to talk about startup marketing on a tight budget, which is usually kind of obvious because even when you raise some funding and if you have the money, marketing is not something that you should be spending a lot on. You should be spending wisely. And from my experience, working on a tight budget can actually activate those creative juices flowing so that you can be better. At least I know it from my history. So this is the webinar on marketing on a tight budget. And I would say that unfortunately, this is the last webinar from me. It is not the last webinar entirely because on the 29th of August, you will still have the public and private funding instruments explained, but that's not me because I have no idea, and I'm sure that Spacetech have found someone really good to talk about it, not me. So I would say that's the last one for me, and that already makes me sad, but since it's the last now, let's make most of it. So I'm gonna start with telling you a story on how one company really made good marketing on a very, very tight budget. And this company is Blendtec. The Blendtec is a blender company, and that is very important in the context because when blenders have marketing budgets, they usually start to convincing us that they are the best blenders out there, meaning that they will tell you about the features. So the value proposition, let's say, of a blender or a blender company is that they help you blend everything and that they crush the ice and everything else. And when it comes to Blendtec, the only problem was that the owner, the founder of Blendtec company, was very much convinced that he had come up with the best value proposition and the best blenders out there. But unfortunately for him, he did not have enough marketing money to convince the people. And neither did have the marketing professional that was hired by Blendtec. So this marketing guy was walking around one day around the factory of Blendtec, and to his surprise, he discovered piles of like dust or powder in the corner of the rooms of the production halls of the company. And he asked the founder, hello, what are those piles of dust? What is this powder? And the Blendtec owner and the founder of the company explained to him, well, every time we produce a new series of blenders, we want to make sure that they really blend everything. So when it comes to blending, every now and then we blend stuff like bricks, glass marbles, and other stuff that is really hard to crush, you can imagine. And that gave the marketing guy an idea. He actually basically used the budget of $45 to produce a YouTube video. And this YouTube video with $45 in the budget was basically answering the question, will it blend? But in the video, he would not blend stuff like bricks or marbles. He would blend something that would be capturing the attention of the viewers a lot more. In short, he was blending electronics and not some sort of lame electronics, but iPhones and iPads, mainly Apple products. Why? Well, because first of all, he wanted to prove that the blenders are good. But second of all, with this sort of experiment, he wanted to capture people's attention with something that was really, really, really expensive and polarizing at the same time. You have to understand that when you're trying to do a viral marketing, regardless if you're doing this for business to business or business to client, one thing you have to remember, if you want things to be viral, it has to be emotionally loaded. And what can be more emotionally loaded than blending an iPhone? And they came up with the movies, with the short films, and the short films, what you're about to see, is one of the series. Anyway, you can see more of that in on YouTube channel, but this is how
will
it
it
actually
blend?
looks.
That is the question. It seems like I've been waiting forever for my Apple Watch. While I was waiting, I made my own iWatch, but it was way too clunky. Thankfully, the real Apple Watch is finally here, and boy, is she a beauty.
Thank you, Tom. That is nice of you to say.
Siri, it's so good to see you again.
You too. It has been a while.
So Siri, I've blended just about everything that Apple makes.
Yes, it has been both inspiring and disturbing.
But there's one thing that I haven't blended yet.
I know. Don't say it.
The Apple Watch.
But the Apple Watch is a work of art. It should be on your wrist, not in a blend tech.
Siri, I'm afraid there's no other way to answer the question, will it blend?
Will it blend?
Ouch. Then this is goodbye. Farewell, Tom.
Move over, Dick Tracy. I think I'm going to press the force touch button.
Wow. Oof. Ah. Wow. Ouch. Oof. Ah.
Whoa. Surely is disturbing.
Oh, Siri smoke. Don't breathe this. So what's up next? I hear Apple is building their own car. I can deal with that.
Well, so the question is, will it blend? And the answer is yes, it blends. And it would be so less viral and less interesting if he was just blending normal stuff. So he's doing this thing. But what you really have to remember is that what BlendTech did, and this is the purpose of this case study, is that they have identified their X factor, meaning that they have identified the biggest and the strongest element, adjective that can be used for them. So for them, it's like they're the best blender and they are the strongest blender of all. For others, it can be identified easily. For Volvo, it is safe. If you think about safe cars, then this is what Volvo comes to your mind. So, like the first step that you have to do when it comes to marketing, and you want to do it with your team or with your colleagues, is to really identify what is it for you. Is it safety? Is it speed? Is it how good you work? Is it accuracy? How good it is? Okay, so what is it for you? So for example, like if I was looking for the perfect word that describes Galileo data compared to others, I would say accuracy. This is like the most accurate data you can get there compared to others. So the question is, what is it for you? What is it for you precisely? I mean, how can you identify? Because you have to remember that when it comes to services and products, people don't actually buy products or services. They're buying what those services or products are doing with them. And they're buying it for certain X factors. They're buying it for certain benefits. So I'm not just buying a car, I'm buying a car that helps me move from one point to another and actually is a hybrid car or eco car to sort of say to the world, I'm having this. I'm not just buying the blender, I'm just buying the best blender out there that is virally talked about. So this is very important. Identify your X factor first. What is it that makes you different? What is it, in short, that makes you remarkable? And this is very important because remarkable means two things. It means amazing, but at the same time, it means worth remark. And things and startups and products and services are only worth remark if they are significantly different than the others, than their competitors. The times where you can just compare and compete with price or quality are long gone. Now you have to really stand out. You have to be remarkable in a good sense of the word. So for example, you can be like remarkable. It's not a tablet, it's remarkable. Actually, remarkable is the first paper-like tablet, let's say, but they actually say we're not a tablet. We are remarkable. They have created like a totally new category, In short, remarkable is a purple cow amongst the tablets and devices that you can write with and make notes. They're so significantly different. The concept of the purple cow is the concept of Seth Godin. Seth Godin strongly believes that you don't need to have a lot of money to do good marketing, and I totally agree. I would say that advertising budgets are the price the companies pay for being mediocre, because they don't have a clue how they can prove to the world that they actually are the purple cow. So the purple cow is a concept by Seth Godin. He mainly says that, well, if you have regular cows on the field, nobody pays attention because they're regular. So if you have like the certain task apps on app stores that are very similar, they're just like those cows. Or if you have just water, or if you have just bread, they're like the regular cows. But if you have the most expensive bread, the most the least expensive, or the tallest, the biggest, the smallest, everything in those measures, then you become the purple cow, because the purple cow is something we pay attention to. The same goes for the metaphor, and I'm saying this is a metaphor of black toilet paper. Why is black toilet paper interesting? Because it's not white. So actually, Jonah Berger, who is a professor at Stanford, has once made an experiment with his fellow colleagues, and he had a home party where he made everyone talk about black toilet paper. Why? Because he placed strategically black toilet paper in the toilet. So whenever a professor, a colleague would go to the toilet, to the men's room, women's room, they would come back and talk, have you seen the toilet paper? It's black. Because it was different. So, I mean, I know it's difficult to really stand out in this way, but really look for this X factor. What makes you the purple cow? What makes you the black toilet paper? What is it? Is it the highest price? Is it the speed? Is it the accuracy? What is it that makes you actually so much different than anyone else? So are you this purple cow, or are you just a regular cow? Okay, so now I'm going to share with you a couple of ideas how you can communicate your purple cow. The first one is in the name of research marketing. And in the name of research marketing is actually performing a kind of a study or research to prove that you are this. So this is actually what Blendpick did. This kind of like an experiment of in the name of research marketing. And this kind of lines up with the social experiments or everything else. The other way that social experiments can be used is something that Dove as a brand has actually done perfectly. And you might be thinking right now, okay, why is he talking about Dove? They have got immense money to spend on marketing. Yes, but when it comes to social experiments, they can be performed in a very on a very tight budget. The only thing you need is like a good idea that will prove using a social experiment frame that this is actually good. The other thing is expert marketing, and this expert marketing can be connected to the personal brand. I mean, we have a startup in Poland that is called Brand24, and Brand24 is mainly the app or the software, the platform that helps you monitor social media mentions. And it is not very much a unusual product or service. I mean, it's very good, but it has some substantial competitors. But what they did is they played a card of expert marketing very well. First of all, they have an extremely well-built brand of a CEO. So their CEO, Michał Sadowski, is actually an expert in everything he does. And he has a very nice, good personal branding around him. But not only him, other team members are also very strong brands, people brands. So everyone on the team is an expert in something, and you can use that and you can benefit from that to tell people. But how do you actually plan on doing any sort of marketing plan for your startup? Well, first of all, you have to realize and you have to make sure that you understand this pattern. So this is the basic conversion. This is the basic conversion path for any sort of a customer that might be coming to you. It is both for the business to business and business to client. So first of all, there is a lot of strangers who might have the problem that you are actually solving, but for now they have absolutely no idea that you exist. So the way to actually make them aware of you is to attract them to your website or your landing page or wherever you want to finalize the transaction. Of course, you can use the outbound sales where you have like very direct reach out, but at the same time, you can use the kind of things that are listed in here. So in order to attract, you might start blogging publicly about it. And I would definitely advise everyone on the team dedicate some time to do some expert blogging on the subject that you are actually covering, okay? The blog doesn't have to be very elaborate. It can come in a form of a pulse up on LinkedIn or any other platform that you want to choose for blogging. The other one is a social media and of course keywords and other landing pages. Once you attract people to your website, they become the visitors. And when they are the visitors, one thing that you need to do is to actually convert them. And for that, you need some forms, contact landing pages, and sometimes you need to make some good offer for them. So example, have an ebook that they can download to actually deepen their knowledge of the subject. So let's have an idea, like for example, like the Buffer app. Okay, Buffer app is was a startup some time ago, and Buffer app is a app that helps you manage your social media accounts across the web. So let's say we want to attract strangers, mainly social media and marketing specialists. So what we do is we need to write a lot of blog content that they might find interesting. So what we find is that, well, social media and marketing specialists are extremely attracted to something that is called psychology and consumer psychology. So we start writing and blogging about consumer psychology and stuff like that. And we actually do it very consistently so that we can come up with a nice blog. Then once people notice that blogging, they will start visiting the website. And on the website, we might place something like a ebook or some webinar, and then in order to register for the webinar or download the ebook, people need to leave their address. And if they need to leave the address, that means that they are turned into leads. And leads are amazing because they are like our potential customers. You can have cold leads, you can have warm leads, and you can have hot leads. No matter how you treat them, you need to approach them differently. Hot leads don't need much time to decision. They just need a little bit of a push, and cold leads are definitely the ones that need to take some time to actually make up their mind. Then when you have the leads, you might be working on the closing the deal. And when you close the deal with newsletters, workflows, and any kind of CRM integrations. And then when the leads becomes customers, there is the last phase where you actually want to delight your customers. So you want your customers to work as your brand evangelist. So again, you might want to ask their opinion. You might want to use their opinion in your marketing. You might want to give them some extra vouchers or something that they might be using in the referral. You can actually make them part of your sales team almost if you're wise enough to do it, and then they become your promoters. So this is one approach that you can take when it comes to actually looking at the map of your potential customers. The other way to approach it is by dividing the phases of each customer into the 4 phases. And those phases are the phase of see, think, do, care. And for each of those phases, you need different marketing approach. So for the C phase, it's mainly the customers that are kind of aware or sometimes not even aware of the problems they might be having, but they are just not willing to decide yet upon the purchase, upon acting. So it's basically, okay, I know that there is social media out there. I know that there are different platforms. I don't know that you can manage them across the different accounts like Buffer App helps. So in that phase, you don't want to attack the customers to make the decision very fast. What you want to do is to actually aware. They need to be aware that you exist. So in this phase, you mainly work on brand awareness. The other one is think. When the startups, when the people are actually thinking, considering the change or considering making the decision. The other one is do, where actually people, your customers, want to become your customers. All they need are just something to confirm their choices. And the care phase is kind of similar to making them care about you and write about you. Regardless of how you see those phases, one of the ways of working on a marketing on a tight budget is something that is called content marketing and educating your clients. You can do it in many ways, but one way that I would suggest is actually thinking what we can write about, what we can talk about, how many events can we actually do this by, and actually educate our clients about what we do and how we do it. And to actually do that, you might need a selection of something that is called RTT, and that RTT is an abbreviation for reason to talk. What is a reason to talk? Reason to talk is, in short, something that can be called like a topic, like an expert topic that our brand can talk about with potential clients, customers, users. So, I mean, it seems kind of obvious that, for example, if you are an app that is working that is offering something for the farmers, you might be writing about the problems of the pharma industry. But not just that, it also can mean that you can be writing about technologies, that you can be writing about something else. Take inspiration from Buffer App that I have mentioned before. Buffer App is a social media management tool platform. But what they write about is customer psychology. Why do they write about customer psychology? Because their main potential clients, their target group, is interested in consumer psychology. So think about what might be interesting for my potential clients, what can be interesting for them, how can they do it. So, I mean, be very strict about establishing your very strong reason to talk. And also remember that if you choose the reason to talk, you have to be an expert on that reason to talk. You cannot basically just write about anything if you don't know a thing about it. So with good established reason to talk, you might start blogging, but you can also start working on leads generation with content marketing. And how can you do it? Well, one way to do it is to actually do a live on Facebook, live on Instagram, or you can do webinars, okay? Webinar is an interesting thing because if you want to, if you can spread the knowledge on a certain subject using the webinars, then you will have people coming in to get that extra, very specific knowledge on a certain subject. But in order to register to the webinar, they will most likely have to leave their email. And once you've got their email, that means that you have converted them into the leads. Another way of doing it is actually ebooks. Ebooks on things that matter. A friend of mine has a social media agency, and every now and then he takes time to write ebooks on very specific and very unique functions of Facebook ads. And that is why he uses them very, very wisely. So ebooks. And ebooks can be produced quite easily. All you need is to have enough substantial content that is done maybe from the blog, and you can put it into a nice and edit it into a nice ebook. I mean, how many good ebooks are out there? Not so many, so you can really, really think about creating the one that is very specific for your specific area, for your specific business. Another version of ebook is actually a white paper, which is full of great case studies. That is important. And you can also work with other options. One of the options that is kind of interesting for me is also doing some sort of like in the name of research marketing. When you enter the market and you address most of the companies you want to work with a good question, and you are saying that you're, for example, working on this global research on how the companies are using social media. And for that, you need some, research tool like Google Docs or Google Quizzes or anything else. You just do that and you approach as many companies you would like to work with. Then you come up with the coherent research that is later published in a white paper or a certain report. And then you make those companies, again, spread the good news about the report or the research they have helped with. So this is a two-way street that can be used well. So one of the most important things that you have to remember from this part is that, first of all, you need to find and allocate your X factor, meaning mainly how you differ from the others. And don't be different just by the price. Be different than something with something bigger. Become, in short, a purple cow. Another thing is you need to remember is that customers are in different phases. Some of them are just considering the purchase or solving their problems. Some of them are not even aware of the problem. The other thing is that you have to remember that the reason to talk is one starting point for the good content marketing campaign. And content marketing campaigns plus lead generation campaigns using webinars, ebooks, white papers can help you generate a lot of attractive leads that you later on will be able to nurture and do. So now, time for Q&A.
Thanks a lot, Piotr. Time for Q&A indeed. We're halfway the webinar, so it's indeed the perfect occasion for you to shoot if you have any further questions on what Piotr just mentioned. Maybe you can share which marketing are you doing, or do you have any experience with what Piotr has suggested so far? Is someone writing a blog, or has someone written ebooks? Would be great to hear your experiences as well.
Maybe you have tried some research-based marketing, something that you did. Maybe you have some previous experience with LinkedIn as generating the leads. Okay, don't shy away. And remember, if you want to ask a question, ask it in a Q&A section, which is down at the bottom there. I mean, I can see that some people are moving in the chat, but I'm not sure that if you...
That's correct. So we got two comments. Mlicha mentioned or asks you to describe the lead factor again, or the lead fact again.
Okay. Well, lead is something that can become your client. It's basically like a potential client. And on the internet, in order to generate leads, you need to find something that you exchange the email address for. So that is why when you want to generate leads using content, you have to have like a landing page or any other place where people can actually exchange their email address for something like an ebook or a register for the webinar or any other content that they might be getting. But remember that the offer you are offering has to be attractive enough for them to be able to decide that they want to leave you with an email, right?
Okay. Then from Tatiana, we have an experience that is shared. She's mentioning that she's usually or mostly sharing industry relevant content on Twitter and that she's planning to blog on LinkedIn and Twitter.
Very good. On LinkedIn, I would try to blogging on the Pulse app. And actually, I would definitely recommend to you, Tatiana, using also the benefits and the leverage that comes from SlideShare. SlideShare is a platform where you can share your presentations. And it's beautifully linked to the LinkedIn account. So every time you share a presentation, it can be visible on your LinkedIn account. And building a strong brand as an expert on LinkedIn, of course, it takes time, but it can be very beneficial, especially if you operate in the business to business. So Twitter is great. From my experience, Twitter is great to leverage your presence at any kind of event or business events or conferences, because that is the time where most people operate. So I would definitely use that as a discussion tool during the events. But when it comes to like follow-ups, I would definitely do LinkedIn. Okay.
All right, wonderful. Then an additional question from Tatiana. She's inquiring about your opinion on cold calling.
Well, I would say that if you do it very wisely, it can be done perfectly. But even for cold calling, you should really think about the quality of the calls, not the quantity of the calls. Okay, so be really prepared for who you are going to talk to. And my experience is this: if you do cold mailing and cold calling properly, I mean, if you prepare and you don't write about yourself, but you actually do some research and write interesting stuff about the area and don't shoot straight forward, meaning like I would use cold mailing, for example, if I were researching a certain topic. So for example, if I want to introduce a new company to a market, and this company is, I don't know, dealing with smart home solutions, I would write to many companies and ask them, what do they know about it? How do they deal with it? I would basically, in cold mailing and cold calling, I would rather look initially for advice and for like the knowledge the customers can bring to me than attack them with my value proposition right away.
Okay, then, two more questions here. One from Maria, mentioning that she is writing a blog and sending a weekly mailing campaign to their potential customers, which is working really well. Now, they have been contacted by a few customers, and their clients are public administrators, which was really complicated. I don't fully Maria, do you have any further information about how we could help you in solving those complications? Because I don't fully understand the question. And then in the meantime, another question from Mlicha asking, to get promotion in the market, is it necessary to keep the service charge low in the beginning?
No. The answer is no. I mean, when it comes to pricing, don't be afraid to actually offer the higher prices. I mean, I know that you might think that the price is the most competitive thing, but remember, especially with new technologies, don't try to price yourself too low. I mean, the price is also a marketing tool. And you have to remember that once you offer very low prices, it will be very difficult to rise them. So, I mean, I would start with higher prices and then maybe lower them for the loyal customers than going the other way around. I mean, it's really difficult for people to accept when the prices go up. So it's better to have like higher prices. And remember, especially with new technologies, most people don't even know how much should something cost. So Buffer app, they had a 93% margin on their services. That's huge. Why? Because nobody else was doing it. So I would definitely think about it. Okay?
Wonderful. Thanks a lot,
Okay.
Piotr.
Right. So now let's go to another thing, which is something that I would like to introduce to you. And this is something that is a 3-hour brand sprint for your startup. And this is basically to establish not only the purple cowiness of your startup and the black toilet paperness of your startup, but also to think about, okay, who are we? Why are we doing this? And this is also very important. And some startups that I work with tell me, oh, this is too soon for us to work on a brand because we're not a brand yet. But I say it's never too early to start on a brand. It can be too late to work on a brand, especially given the fact that you become the brand whether you like it or not. I mean, and the sooner you start thinking about it, the better for you. The brand is basically your identity that can create brand habits, certain brand habits, how you address your customers, how you are, what are your presentations, how you look visually. And this, in short, creates an affect, like an image of your brand. And to do that, there's a very simple, I mean, not a very simple, but a very good exercise to actually perform when you are looking for your brand to establish it very well from the very beginning. So the first part of this exercise is, and you can perform it later on with your team, is you answer the questions, what do we do, how do we do it, and why do we do it? These are the 3 most crucial questions. Why do we do it? Because we believe that the world can be a better place. Could be a good answer, but it should be more precise. How do we do it? I mean, by using this kind of technology, by implementing this. And what do we do? It's usually the simplest thing that can do. The other thing that you should be able to actually perform when you are doing this brand exercise is something that is called the message map. You should be able to actually create a coherent message map that contains your unique value proposition and 3 supporting messages for your brand. So it can be like this. The easiest and fastest way to get around town. That's Uber. That's like a message map for Uber. That's their claim. For me, is I help companies hone and position their message. Also great. I mean, not so great as Uber's. And think about it this way. I mean, what can you tell in 1 sentence about your company that can identify the value proposition? Then think about top 3 values for your company. And this is a very important task because most people don't know how to actually establish their values of the company. And by values, I don't mean the value proposition. I mean the values your company lives by and breathes by. So if the value is honesty, that may mean a lot of things, but for example, it can mean that you will honestly tell your customers when something is wrong. You will honestly tell the customers that they don't need your solution, and you will honestly tell them when they need your solution. But when you establish the top 3 values for your company, it's also very important to be able to come up with case studies and stories that support that you are actually honest. Or, I mean, if honesty is one of your top 3 values. The top 3 values can be different. It can be like, we are fun, we are energetic, we are innovative, we are young, we are honest, we are transparent. And again, getting back to Buffer, which is a great example, one of their core values is that they are transparent, and they are transparent to the max. That means that on the website, you will also find how much everyone in the company earns and what are the other information, that everything is displayed like totally transparent in a way. The other thing that you need to be able to do is something that is called that you can establish the top 3 audiences that you want to address, especially if you're a startup and you don't have enough money and enough time to address every audience out there. You should have top 3 audiences that you want to actually address with your brand message. One should definitely be your clients, for sure. But the other one, maybe it's the academics at the universities. Maybe it's the media. Maybe it's some very specific media, or maybe it's someone else. I mean, who are your top audiences that you really want to address? The other one is called personality sliders, and you should be able to actually position yourself against the others. So for example, if you have other competitors and one of them is really very conservative in terms of branding, the message and everything else, and other one is extremely innovative and modern, where are you there on those personality sliders? Are you formal or totally not formal? Are you fun or are you serious? I mean, should be able to answer those questions. The other one is, of course, competitive landscapes. How are you different? And for that, I want you to answer a very good question. I mean, to complete sentence. Unlike, and then you should be able to say, unlike others, we are. And you better have a very, very strong, unlike. I mean, a differentiator for your startup, for your thing. And remember, customers operate on meaning, not the details. What does it mean that I'll be buying the service? What does it mean for me? I mean, I'm sure some of you remember Leah, the startup that I have elaborated during the pitching webinar. In Leah, they have all this technology means that you can actually flush these tests down, meaning that you can flash these tests down. So what does it mean for me that I'm buying this technology, this material science? It means that I can flash down this test. For another winner of TechCrunch Disrupt, that was the Juke Deck, which they were doing this AI music composer. They very often said, this whole technology means that you can get an unlimited amount of unique soundtracks to your video. So what does it mean for me? Okay, because as John Medina said, it's always meaning before the details. It's never the other way. The other thing is the pass along value. I mean, what is so interesting about your startup, your thing that people will want to talk about with others? Why were people talking about Tesla? Because it was the first ever electric car to talk about. Why were people talking about the SodaStream, the device SodaStream? You might check it online. Because it was the first one that was sued by Coca-Cola. And of course, I'm not advising you to be sued by anyone to be talked about, but think about what can we generate, what sort of value can we generate that people will want to talk about it. It has to be useful, it has to be newsworthy, it can be funny, but it doesn't have to be. And you can use stories as case studies, and that will be good. So now let's go to another Q&A, which I'm sure you are now ready to ask, okay? You were very good before with those good questions, so I'm sure that either Tatiana, Maria, or someone else out there has some questions for me.
Let's see, nothing is there yet, but I'm pretty sure that they're being typed at the moment.
I'm pretty hoping that. It's the last time actually we can have questions. I mean, in this webinar, so this is not the end, of course, obviously. And I will be keeping my fingers crossed to see all your amazing products out there that will be good there, and I will be looking for them. Okay. Whoa! I can see that there are nothing is out there.
Nothing is there yet. That's a good sign about your explanation. Oh, there's one. Yes.
Good, thank you.
Leah is asking if you could pass along, if you could describe passing along the value in case of policymakers.
Policymakers.
Public customers and so forth.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it shouldn't be much different from any other. I mean, policymakers are also people, meaning that they find things that are interesting the same way that are interesting for others. The only thing is that they might have a different commander's intent, meaning that they will pay attention to other things. I mean, for a mother who wants to raise a healthy child, she will be paying attention to everything that helps her achieve that. For a CEO who is responsible who responds to the board, it will be most important to prove that he has the growth. For policymakers, other things might be interesting and might be important. Pass along value is the value of the information that one person passes to another. So for example, it can be compared to like a gossip, okay? If you have a good gossip, people pass it along because it's valuable for them, it's new, it's important, it's exciting. So the same way, I mean, if anything changes in the regulations, people talk about it, but only people who are affected by this regulation. If anything changes in the trends, in the demographics, that's also important. I mean, so I would think about what might be interesting for this particular group and try to kind of infect them with this viral information. That would be my way of thinking there. I mean, people only pay attention to what matters to them. And what matters to them differs from one species to another. I mean, people usually react well to threats and chances. Chances are also discovering something new, being more in the loop, being better informed, okay?
Sounds very clear to me. There are no further questions.
Okay, okay, no further question for now, so let's move further. Tastemakers. You might want to identify your tastemakers. Tastemakers are like influencers, but you don't have to pay for them. I mean, and tastemakers are people who actually can help you boost your message across the web. So if someone who is important for your business, he doesn't have to be a customer, she or he doesn't have to be a customer actually, but what they need to be is to have a good following. And this good following means that they will pass along the value. Tastemakers are like influencers. You should be able to identify at least 2 or 3 tastemakers for your particular brand. They can be influential keynote speakers. They can be influential mentors. They can be anyone who is interested in getting to know more from your business area. And just let them know that you are out there and that you have something interesting that they might be interested in. And when they find it, they will pass it along to the others. So you can even make those people talk about toilet paper like Jonah Berger did, but you can also make them talk about the videos like this. I mean, this is the video that was, I mean, I'm not going to play this video because it's kind of absurd and I don't want to put absurdity into a very, very professional webinar. But this is the video that was first published on YouTube, and it's the video that was, when it was uploaded, nothing happened there. It was the video called The Double Rainbow, and when it was first uploaded to YouTube, nobody paid attention. As you can see, for a very long time, nobody paid attention to this YouTube video. This video was kind of funny. It was done by Yosemite Bear, by a guy who actually was doing some camping in Yosemite Park, and he did this video of double rainbow that appeared on the sky. But then nothing happened. I mean, it's the equivalent of you making a very interesting viral video that nobody wants to watch. But what happens then is that you can see there was a huge peak. And what this huge peak was actually that Jimmy Kimmel actually tweeted about the video. So you need to find your Jimmy Kimmels that will pass along your blog post, your Twitter account. So you need to actively look for those people. It doesn't have to be Jimmy Kimmel. It doesn't have to be Ellen DeGeneres. It can be someone who is a lot less recognized, a lot less famous, but they have to have a good following that is actually your potential clients. So that's basically about the tastemaker. The other thing that you might want to do is participation. Participation is the king of good marketing. Make your customer part of your product. Make your customers feel like they are doing it and co-creating it. One great example is, for example, Nir Eyal. Nir Eyal is not a startupper, but he is an entrepreneur, and he is basically teaching the product psychology. So he has webinars, he has a blog, and he also writes books. For one of his books, he has decided to do the full spectrum participation. He invited people to co-create his book by mainly allowing them to do editing of the book and inviting people to either co-create your product, co-create your marketing, co-create your blog post, co-create your reports, inviting them means two things. First of all, they will be interested in joining if you incentivize them, but also once they join, they will be willing to spread the news about this. So participation is the key. And also remember that it's very important to be unexpected. In terms of being really, let's say, have this surprise factor, and surprise factor can mean everything. One other option that you may try out is something that I call the power of good quiz. Okay, a lot of people take quizzes or make tests. They're not difficult to create. Actually, at BuzzFeed, you can actually create very easily quizzes. But the power of good quiz means that people will make your quiz and they will also spread the news about it. And it can be a very serious quiz even, what type of an investor you are, one quiz. Or it can be like the quiz done by Adobe. That was actually an excellent case of a brand creating a good quiz. This quiz was called Creative Types. And if you clicked on the start test, you were able to go through the very simple yet beautiful and effective quiz where you would discover which one of those creative types are you. And remember, it's Adobe, so it's for the creative people. So the creative people wanted to find out what creative type are you. Why? Because people like to find out things about themselves. And for example, I took the test, so it turned out that I'm the thinker. And that was really cool. But then I posted it on Facebook. Why? Because once you discover something incredibly interesting about yourself, you want to post it online. And the same goes for even creating a professional quiz that can be later on posted on LinkedIn or anywhere else. And the funny thing is, once I did this test, most of my friends were actually doing this test again, and they were posting under my post, oh, I did this quiz. So it went totally viral. And what quizzes actually allow you to do is something that we call the humble brag. The humble brag. What is a humble brag? Where you want to brag about yourself, but you don't want to be too big about it. So you just basically use other people to talk about you. And the quizzes allow us to do this. Remember, a lot of times when people want to spread your news, it is about them talking about your company, but only if they can show who they are using this. So it's basically like with the attributes. Most people use certain attributes like shoes, cosmetics in social media to say who they are. Maybe they will be using the results of your quiz that you have prepared for them to show who they are. I mean, even if it is a quiz about, are you a modern time investor? Are you a modern time farmer? Are you a great policymaker? And stuff like that. I mean, just try to think about it and be creative. And now be creative, because it's the last Q&A of the day. And just to wrap up before you ask me the questions, I have elaborated on things like in the name of research marketing, when you actually create a certain research or social experiments that can become viral. I have talked about the power of a good quiz that allows your potential customer to explore something like the humble brag. I have told you about the importance of identifying tastemakers and the possible options of helping people to participate in the co-creation of your product and or your marketing efforts, meaning that reports, research, everything else. So you can invite others and do this kind of cross-marketing things. Okay, so now the last Q&A.
Indeed, the last Q&A and the very last Q&A of your startup masterclasses for this accelerator season. Exactly, I'm very sorry for that, Piotr, but all good things come to an end, right?
Yeah.
For the time being, it doesn't seem that there are any immediate questions.
Yeah, but I see some people in chat. Maybe they're just addressing the questions in the chat or making comments there.
Nothing. Well, Tatiana mentioned that she did the quiz actually, which you just shared. Yes, and she was the visionary, the cactus.
See,
So
that's, I mean, the very fact that we're talking about it, like probably Tatiana will also admit that she took this test because of curiosity. And I'm saying, I mean, quizzes can be a great way to actually make people spread the word about your thing. So that I would do it. I mean, remember one thing, 30 to 40% of our daily conversations is about ourselves. Online, it's 80%. With your content, with your marketing, you should be able to give people something that they will be able to take and say, this is who I am. I mean, good brands and good startups don't just talk about themselves. Then they help people to talk about themselves. A very good example of that is, and I consider myself a startup too, in some way. So my today's post about eliminating the clutter from my life and actually going extra minimal went totally crazy on Facebook and LinkedIn. Why? Because with this post, people were able to say, oh yeah, this is exactly who I am. I'm just like that. I also want to eliminate the chaos from my life. Okay, so.
well, I think Tatiana agrees with you. She says that it's a great idea and that she could quiz the industry on the kind of data they're using and their views on the future of the industry. I like that.
I mean, observe the ones that are doing it, even when it comes to finding tastemakers. Be creative about it. And remember that the lack of budget can actually become your best friend. I mean, if you have a lot of budget, it's so easy to spend it on ads and outdoor campaigns. If you don't have it, you have to really think creative and you have to really be crazy about it, doing crazy stuff and, you know, experimenting a lot with marketing. And this is what I wish you can do. On my blog, you will also find some extra material in the section of marketing and branding. You will find some things in the name of research marketing, which I hope can be used for you. So, as much as I regret to say it, but it's like over, and I'm so sad because, you know, I think that there are people out there who have seen all the webinars with me, who actually completed the whole master webinar element, and I'm very proud of you guys. I do really hope to see you somewhere out there in Europe. So you have my, you can, you know, find me on LinkedIn, find me on Twitter. Don't find me on Facebook because I'm trying to eliminate Facebook from my life for the time being. And I really have my fingers crossed for your startup ventures, and I'm sure that you're doing some great stuff out there. And can't wait to talk about you. So give me some, you know, social value that I can pass along to the others. So thank you for now. I do hope really to that you also enjoyed the other webinars that are waiting for you in August. Thank you, Hannes, so much for being such a great help during the webinars and organizing everything so perfectly. And I do hope to see all of you in the future, if not in one place, then maybe in many different places. So take care, have a great evening out there, and bye. Ciao from me.
Thanks a lot, Piotr. Thanks a lot, and I wish you a great holiday. Summer months are coming, so please enjoy that and take a well-deserved break. It's indeed, unfortunately, the last one from your side, but luckily enough, we have more webinars planned for this Accelerators edition, as you mentioned. So as said in the beginning of this webinar, we have a next one, the 29th of August on Thursday, which will deal with public and private funding instruments. And then in September, we'll have another webinar with 2 angel investors, not to be missed, and more information about that later. For the rest, I wish everyone a wonderful, wonderful holiday, a wonderful summer season. Enjoy a well-deserved break. I hope the weather doesn't go too wild and too crazy on you all. And I wish you happy holidays. Thanks a lot for being here today. Bye.